Good morning, everyone. So today I'll be taking this current affairs class. So we'll just know the topics that we will be covering today. The topics will include topics will be from the subjects like science and technology, Indian polity, geography, and some of the issues from economics. And yeah, one or two IR related issues too will be discussed in the class. So first of all, the first and foremost, the topic that we will be discussing today is one of the most burning issue of this time. One of the issue which is actually shaking the world, and this is the coronavirus disease, COVID-19. COVID-19. Secondly, we will see avian influenza. Avian influenza. Thereafter, we will see what is epidemics. Epidemics Act. What is Epidemics Act? After that, we will see GSET. After that, we will see GSET. All right. Yeah. In space technology, apart from GSET, we will also see what is ExoMars. ExoMars. The name itself suggests that it is something related to Mars. Exo means, now what does exo means? Exo means outside the influence of Mars. So it must be something which is related to the outer atmosphere of Mars, knowing the atmosphere of Mars, maybe. Let's see. So this is how we actually try to guess if we don't know the topic. So we try to eliminate the answers from the options. Eliminate the options, okay. Other topic that we'll be covering under Indian polity would be anti-defection laws. 10th schedule. Anti-defection law. We have seen it recently in the case of Madhya Pradesh. Earlier also we saw it in the case of Karnataka, and this has been basically a trend in Indian polity to defect to a party or to defect to any other party to have some monetary gain, or maybe gain in the form of ministership, or that kharid frokt of MLAs, or the poaching of MLAs as it is being termed. All right. Then we'll also see Northeast Venture Fund. What is Northeast Venture Fund? Northeast Venture Fund. Also we will see National Interlinking of Rivers Authority. National Interlinking of River Authority. So these are the 8 topics we'll see first, and thereafter we will go and see about the rest of the issues. So first of all, COVID-19. COVID-19. So by now every one of you must have known what is COVID-19. Okay, the virus which is responsible for this disease is coronavirus. Coronavirus. And why is this called COVID? Why is this called COVID? This co represents corona. This VI represents virus, and this D means disease. Coronavirus disease, as this disease emerged in the year of 2019, the number 19 has been attached to it. The number 19 has been attached to it. Now, which is the organization which has named this? Is this the Chinese authority which has named it as COVID-19? No. The sole responsibility lies with WHO to name such diseases or to name any disease. It's WHO who can do that. So it is the WHO, World Health Organization, which named this new coronavirus disease as COVID-19. All right. So this COVID-19 is a variant of SARS. SARS, we have seen earlier also, SARS has created an epidemic in the past too. Okay, this is severe acute respiratory syndrome. SARS was also a respiratory disease, illness. This COVID-19 is again a respiratory illness. So this is a variant of severe acute respiratory syndrome. Severe acute respiratory syndrome. In detail, it is written like this: SARS-CoV-19. SARS-CoV-19. Well, this disease has killed around 38 to 3700 people in China, more than 4,000 people in Italy. In our country, as of now, the count is around 5. And overall, globally, if we say, the count is more than, has just crossed the mark of 10,000. So, WHO, seeing its impact and seeing its spread throughout the world, has termed this disease, or has termed this outburst as an epidemics or pandemic. In fact, this is basically a pandemic. And there is a difference between pandemic and epidemic. There is a difference between pandemic and epidemic. This is global, okay? So see the difference. Important it is to know what is the difference between pandemic and epidemic. So what was the origin of this disease? What was the origin of this disease? It emerged from it emerged in China from the province of Wuhan, wherein Hubei is a specific location where it is said the disease might have, or the disease has originated from. It is considered the disease probably originated in the month of November, the first week of November, or maybe last week of October. And the Chinese officials and the Chinese government actually failed to inform the global authorities or the global brotherhood about this disease. They failed, or it is claimed they actually tried to hide the spread of this disease, or the fact that it is not fully treatable so far, or in the grave situations it cannot be treated. Or they also failed to tell the global arena about the rate at which it contaminates people, the rate at which it spreads from person to person. So as they failed, the cases actually continued to grow and swell. Now the number of people suffering from this infection continued to swell, and now the situation is around 177 countries of the world. There are around 206 countries throughout the world, recognized ones. So in 206 countries में से around 177 countries are already infected by this virus. So only 30 countries or 29 countries are left. So this is a grave situation, and therefore chances are there the UPSC will ask something related to this disease, or maybe it will ask something else and it will put COVID-19 or coronavirus as an option in the answer. So it will check whether the students are tempted to mark coronavirus if it is not the answer, because students think that this has been in news for such a long time that certainly this will be the answer. So UPSC must have asked this because this is the answer. So you have to check that tendency and know the facts and figures. Not figures basically, you have to know what the facts are related to this disease. Then also you have to understand, I'm sorry, you have to understand what is the basic difference between the virus and the bacteria. Also you have to understand the difference between H5N1, H9N1, H5N2 and other diseases, similar diseases. All right. So tell me, does it transmit from animal to human being or from human being to animal? Because who is the carrier here? Is it the human being, or is it the mosquito, or is it any other living being or any living being? Who is a vector here? Sorry, not the vector. Who is the carrier here? Well, so far as the researches have taken place, it is only the human being who is acting as a carrier here. So that's why it has been said in the guidelines that you should not be shaking hands, you should not be coming close to a person who is coughing or who is having symptoms of coronavirus. Because if the person sneezes, the droplets, the micro droplets that we cannot see, when it comes out from the mouth or the noses, it might reach you and it might come to infect you too. All right. So what is the test? What is the test to check I will not be providing the PDF, but of course I'll try to make you write notes on the topics that I'll be covering. Cool? So yeah, Yasin said human to human, correct? It is human to human. So what is the test that is conducted to check whether the person who is suffering or who is observed or who is who thinks that have the symptoms of COVID-19. So what is the test known as, or what do you think they take sample as? Is it the blood, or is it the urine, or is it the sputum? What is that they take sample as? Anyone? Yeah, PCR test. What is the full form of PCR test? What is the full form of PCR test? It is polymerase chain reaction test. It is polymerase chain reaction test. So now these are few of the facts, of course, yeah. So these are few of the facts related to COVID-19. Now we have to see what will be the impact of COVID-19 on India, on its population. Are we capable enough, are we prepared enough to counter the impact of this virus? Because we are a population of 1.2 billion people. Around 50 to 55% of the population lives in rural areas and rest in urban areas. So I guess rural-urban ratio is almost similar in India, almost similar. I'm not saying it's similar. We also know that what are the harmful effects of urban areas, as we have seen in Indian society. Crowded places are more, slum-like areas are there, hygiene is an issue in urban areas. So, is India on the verge of an outbreak? We have to see that also. So therefore, we'll write something about COVID-19 and वहीं हम लोग इसके बारे में भी लिख लेंगे कि how this will impact India and how prepared we are about COVID-19. Okay? And what is that India is doing for the global community? What is it that the India is doing for the global community in the wake of this disease? वो भी देखेंगे. आपको पता होगा Prime Minister Modi, he conducted a video conferencing of the SAARC ministers, the head of the SAARC countries. Well, that was with the view that the India and the SAARC countries, which are actually most of which are developing and underdeveloped countries, have poor health facilities, are overpopulated. So chances are there that the people or the countries, these SAARC countries will bear the loss maximum. Because we have seen its impact on China, we have seen its impact on throughout the European nations, be it UK, be it Germany, be it Spain, be it France, be it Italy. These countries are devastated by this outbreak. So we have to prepare ourselves, and while we prepare ourselves, we have also to prepare the neighboring countries from around India. Because if the panic situation arises, then India will be the only destination they are left out with. And in case they start coming to India, which will not be that possible, but we cannot deny the fact that the Indian borders are not still sealed. So in that scenario, it will be tough for a country like India to cope up with that challenge, Also, you have many trade practices within the SAARC nations. If the economy of India and also the economy of these countries are shattered by this epidemic or pandemic, this will impact the economy of India for a long time. So that's why the country is trying to brace itself and the neighboring countries so that a joint effort can be taken to fight this disease. All right, now let's write some few of the facts, and then we'll move to the next topic of avian influenza. So right, World Health Organization has named the new coronavirus disease as COVID-19. The new name is taken from the words The new name is taken from the words corona, virus, and disease, with 2019 okay. So I'll repeat the same. The new name is taken from the words corona. The new name is taken from the words corona, virus, and disease, with 2019 representing the year, when it emerged. Moreover, the word coronavirus refers to the group of viruses. The word coronavirus refers to the group of viruses it belongs to, refers to the group of viruses it belongs to, rather than the latest strain, full stop. The latest strain has been designated as within the inverted comma, right, severe acute respiratory syndrome, severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2, severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2. So this is the name of the virus. SARS-CoV-2 is the name of the virus. COVID-19 is the name of the disease. So virus has been named as severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2. All right, and the disease is called COVID-19. Now next point, PCR test, that is polymerase chain reaction test, is the test which is conducted by taking the samples or swab samples, by taking the swab samples to verify if an individual is suffering from COVID-19 or not. To verify if the person is suffering from COVID-19 or not. So what is swab? Swab is not something related to blood. It is not something related to your sputum. It is not something related to your stool or the urine. They take a sample from your nose, they'll enter a swab into your nose and collect some material, and they will take it for the test. That is swabs. Alright? So, right again, COVID-19 is spread via how it spreads, okay? COVID-19 is spread via airborne droplets, or contact with the surface, or contact with the surface. Full stop. It is possible that a person can get COVID-19 It is possible that a person can get COVID-19 by touching a surface or an object, that has a virus on it and then touching their own nose, eyes or mouth. That has the virus on it and then touching their own nose, eyes or mouth. All right, now we'll see what is the impact of COVID-19 on India, how prepared India is, and what could be the potential consequences if it is not controlled. Okay? Right. India's inadequate health infrastructure accompanied by factors like population density, poverty and illiteracy, population density, poverty and illiteracy, makes India highly vulnerable makes India highly vulnerable to COVID-19, makes India highly vulnerable to COVID-19. India now has reported, sorry, skip this line, the health ministry through its integrated disease surveillance program, is tracing the people who have come in contact with the already infected ones. So under the next topic, write challenges faced by India. Under the next heading, submit, write challenges faced by India. First one is the major concern with the large population. First point is large population. See, we have seen that Indian urban agglomerations have people who travel daily between the nearby rural areas and come to urban areas for job related things, for many of the economic activities, or for buying goods so that they can sell it there. So they are exposing themselves also, and also the hinterlands of the country, because now the disease will be, so far the disease was considered to be imported one, which means that only the people who have a travel history or a past travel history of traveling to some country which is more infected, like Italy or maybe somewhere in Europe or maybe China. So somewhere and somehow it was understood that the disease is in India is imported one. But now when these people will continue to move to and fro from rural to urban areas, it is considered that the country will start having community impact. That is, now it will be spreading to the people who do not have any past travel history to places which have already been infected severely. समझ रहे हो अंतर इसका? इसमें क्या कहना का मतलब है कि there is a remarkable difference between the spread or between the infection of a person because of his own past travel history or because of the travel history of his near ones. Any of the family member or a friend from whom he can directly get that infection. But now when the people will traverse from one place to another in search of job and everything, other things, the chances are there that the community spread will gradually take place. It is known as community spread, wherein the person or the community who is getting infected now do not have any past travel history. When the people, when it spreads via community, when it spreads via people who do not have any past travel history, then it can be massive, because it is easy to trace people who have past travel history. So you can trace them and you can isolate them. But you cannot trace everyone in the community, because their data is not present, because you don't know where all they have traveled, been to. So that is why it is considered that the third stage of this spread, in which Italy is there now, are the most dangerous stages, because the progression is geometric progression. The progression of patients infected by this disease after the third stage is geometric. So that's why we have to take care for next 2 to 3 weeks, which are very, very important for India, or for that matter any country. So first was large population, second is poor hygiene. Second is a poor hygiene. What is poor hygiene? We know that. इसमें एक point और add कर लो, extra point. Also, mobile phones, keyboards are some of the dirtiest reservoirs of viruses. Next is unknown incubation period. This incubation period means the period when you are, is defined as the period when you are actually exposed to the viruses, when the virus is within you, or when the pathogen is within you, but you have not started showing the symptoms. So this period of starting to show the symptoms and getting exposed to the viruses or the pathogens is known as incubation period. Incubation period. So right, the incubation period is not very accurate. The incubation period is not very accurate. Hence, it cannot be defined. Hence, it cannot be defined for how long the person need to be quarantined. It cannot be defined for how long the person need to be quarantined. Within this unknown incubation period, this is a different point, unknown incubation period. So we have written what is incubation period and how it is harmful because there is no defined incubation period, so we don't know for how long the person need to be quarantined or need to be kept in isolation. All right, within this, write a different point, next point. COVID-19 usually follows what is known as a COVID-19 usually follows what is known as a biphasic or dual phase infection. Biphasic or dual phase infection, which means the virus persists, and causes a different set of symptoms than observed in initial bout. Full stop. Also sometimes the recovered person can relapse. Next point is super spreader disease. Super spreader disease. Currently, the cases and clusters in India, currently the cases and the clusters in India are simple spreaders, which means that the infected person has low effectivity, full stop. However, a COVID-19 patient also have a super spreader. A COVID-19 patient also have a super spreader characteristic, which means that the infected person with high infectivity can infect hundreds of people within no time. Infected person with high infectivity can infect hundreds of people within no time. Next, right. Rumors on social media platforms can be equally harmful. Next point, United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, UNCTAD, United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, has said that the virus outbreak can impact the global economy, has said that the virus outbreak can cost the global economy up to $2 trillion, up to $2 trillion up to $2 trillion this year, and that the pandemic could cause a recession, and that the pandemic could cause a recession in some countries, causing global economic growth, to clock around or below 2.5%. Full stop. The Indian government has the twin challenge the Indian government has the twin challenge to contain the virus when the economy is already in slowdown. To contain the virus when the economy is already in slowdown. Now the last point, the immediate steps that needs to be taken. Immediate steps that need or that should be taken. First one, not the first one, just right. Until now there is no definitive cure. Until now, there is no definitive cure or vaccine against COVID-19. Until now, there is no definitive cure and vaccine for COVID-19. Full stop. Therefore, the response plan undoubtedly lies on. Therefore, the response plan undoubtedly lies or relies on basic measures such as risk communication, health education, social distancing, and home isolation, to reduce the spread at which the outbreak might spread. The next point, the immediate steps that need to be taken. First point, the National Crisis Management Committee should be leveraged. And also should coordinate across the ministries and departments, coordinate across the ministries and department. A dedicated web portal should be set up. Which indicates or which includes a dashboard with key indicators next, stricter norms to be followed for the people who are quarantined. Stricter norms to be followed for the people who are quarantined. Next, the response plan should be able to maintain ongoing regular health program. The response plan should be able to maintain the ongoing regular health program, while at the same time devoting adequate resources to the response. All right, so these are the details and the consequences of coronavirus. We have seen that. So now, in the wake of coronavirus or the COVID-19, many of the states have brought in Epidemics Disease Act. Many of the state governments have brought in Epidemics Disease Act, which was enacted in the year of 1897, 1897, it was bubonic plague. You must have read this in modern India. The bubonic plague of 1897, after this after this bubonic plague of 1897, Bal Gangadhar Tilak was, not Bal Gangadhar Tilak, one of the very prominent leader was actually jailed after this. Only, Bal Gangadhar Tilak was punished for, he was imprisoned for 18 months because he tried, or he actually wrote about the brutalities and the failure of the British Empire in his two publications of Kesari and Maharata. So, it was during the spread of bubonic plague in 1890s when this Epidemics Act was brought in. All right. So, as and when there is a epidemic like situation in the country, or there is a spread of any disease in the country like swine flu, or in the present scenario this coronavirus, also plague, cholera, dengue, then this act comes into play in several comes into play into the state which is actually suffering the impact of that particular spread or disease. So this is Epidemics Act 1897. All right. So this Epidemics Act 1897 basically empowers the state government and give it powers to control or to take steps, precautionary measures to contain the spread, It can also make temporary regulations which has to be observed by the people and the institution in the wake of such outbreaks. All right. And this act has been criticized for a long time. This act has been criticized for a long time because the act actually gives powers to the authorities to search houses or to search the suspected people and take them along and make them give samples. Make them give samples. They may be evacuated and they may be quarantined, and also it gives a state a huge power of demolishing the buildings if it is sure the building is infected, demolishing the places. All right. So are there any example when it was implemented or when it was brought in by any of the state? Recently West Bengal did, Karnataka did, many of the states are implementing Epidemics Act 1897. They have brought in the wake of coronavirus, COVID-19 is spread out. So now there are many states which are actually doing that. In the past, can you remember if there was any instant when this act was passed by the state government? So it was in 2018 when the Gujarat government actually implemented this, enforced this act after the village was completely infected by cholera. Also in 2015 when the dengue and malaria infected the people, or when the people of Chandigarh were infected by malaria and dengue, then also the then Union Territory government of the administration of Chandigarh imposed Epidemics Act in the city. So write about it. So this is in news because the central government, the health ministry, has asked state to invoke provisions of Section 2 of Epidemics Act. The government has asked state governments to invoke Section 2 of the Epidemics Act. Section 2 of the Epidemics Act. All right, so right. Epidemics Act is routinely enforced across the country Epidemic Act is routinely enforced across the country for dealing with outbreaks of diseases such as swine flu, for dealing with diseases such as swine flu, dengue and cholera. Swine flu, dengue and cholera. This act was introduced by the British government. This act was introduced by the British government, to tackle the epidemic of bubonic plague. To tackle the epidemic of bubonic plague that had spread in the erstwhile Bombay presidencies, in the 1890s. In the 1890s. Now right, why has been this act criticized? Why is this act criticized? Historians have criticized this act. Historians have criticized this act for its potential for abuse. Full stop. Using powers conferred by the act. Using powers conferred by the act. Authorities would search the suspected plague cases in homes, would search the suspected plague cases in homes and among passengers with forcible evacuation segregation, forcible evacuation, segregation, and demolition of infected places, and demolition of infected places. It was in the year of 1897. It was in the year of 1897 when Bal Gangadhar Tilak was put behind the bars. When Bal Gangadhar Tilak was put behind the bars, after his newspapers Kesari and Maharatha, after his newspapers Kesari and Maharatha admonished imperial authorities for their handling of this plague epidemic, for their handling of this plague epidemic. So now write few of the provisions of the Epidemic Act. Write few of the provisions of the Epidemic Act of 1897. First one, empowers the state government it empowers the state government to take special measures and formulate regulations for containing the outbreak. Next, empowers the state to prescribe such temporary regulations. Empowers the state to prescribe after Bal Gangadhar Tilak. Okay. When the Bal Gangadhar Tilak, it was in the year 1897, when the Bal Gangadhar Tilak was punished, when the Bal Gangadhar Tilak was punished with 18 months of regular imprisonment, after his newspapers Kesari and Maharatha, admonished, after his newspapers Kesari and Maharatha admonished imperial authorities for their handling of the plague epidemic, Now write the provisions of the, what was bubonic plague? It was a plague-like situation. It was plague, in fact, which is where the carrier is rat, mouse. All right, it happened in and around the city of Bombay, Pune and all. You might remember it was during the bubonic plague only that the Chapekar brothers killed the plague officer in Pune. The Chapekar brothers killed the plague officer in Pune. So it was during that time only. Now write the provisions of 1897 Epidemics Act. First one, empowers the state government and union territory to take special measures. Empowers the state government and empowers the state government and union territories to take special measures and formulate regulations for containing the outbreak Next point, please write fast. It empowers the state to prescribe such temporary regulations and guidelines It also empowers the state to prescribe such temporary regulations or guidelines to be observed by the public or by any person or class of person as the government may deem fit. By any person or the class of person as the government may deem fit. Next, the state may determine in what manner and by whom any expenses incurred shall be defrayed, or the process it comes back to the exchequer. Defrayed. Next, it also provides penalties for disobeying the provisions which can impose penalties for disobeying the regulation or order made under the act Last, it also gives legal protection to the implementing officers. It gives legal protection to the implementing officers under the act, under the act, okay. So now the next topic is avian influenza. Avian influenza. You must have read about or heard about H5N1, H5N1, H5N6, H9N2. Avian influenza. Avian influenza. So this was in news recently because there was an outbreak of avian influenza or the bird flu. This is also known as the bird flu because there is an outbreak of avian influenza or bird flu from various parts of Kerala, and in the aftermath of that, the Kerala government decided to pay the victims or the owners of the birds or the hens the compensation for the loss they have incurred. So now in the wake of this, it is important to understand, and also in the wake of coronavirus, it is important for us to understand and know what is H5N1. What is the difference between different diseases like H5N1, H9N2 and all. So what is this H5N1 disease? So what is this H and what is this 9? What are these numbers? And what are these numbers? Also we have to know if this disease can only spread among the birds or the hens or their species like chickens, turkeys, quails, fowl, guena, whether they can keep the spread can be limited to these birds or it can impact the human population too, and if yes, how? What is the pathogen or who is the carrier of that particular pathogen to the human being? Okay, so we have to see this. We have also to see what is the treatment or what is the cure, or if it is treatable or not. That also we have to see. Okay. So right, about avian influenza, right, it is a viral infection that can infect viral infection that can infect not only birds but also human beings and other animals. Human beings and other animals. Full stop. Most forms of the virus are restricted to birds. Most forms of the viruses are restricted to birds. Okay. So now this disease is highly communicable, very highly contagious and communicable disease, which can infect several species of birds or hen. For that matter, it may be guiana, it may be fowl, it may be turkey, chicken, quails, anything. And also mammals like human being can also come under or can also feel the impact of this thing, avian influenza or the bird flu. Okay? So how does it happen? What actually causes the occurrence of the outbreak of the bird flu? So right, H5N1 was the first strain, first avian influenza H5N1 was the first avian influenza virus to infect humans, was the first avian influenza virus to infect humans, full stop. The first infection occurred in Hong Kong in 1997. The first infection occurred in Hong Kong in 1997. Full stop. The outbreak was linked to handling infected poultry. So, though it is very rare for human beings to get infected by bird flu, but if there is a direct relationship between the individual and the poultry farms where the hens are culled or the birds are infected, then the chances are high that the infected person will actually get hold of or will get affected or infected by the bird flu. Okay? Second point, H5N1 occasionally or occurs naturally in wild waterfowl, occur naturally in wild waterfowl, but it can spread easily to domestic poultry. But it can spread easily to domestic poultry. Full stop. This disease is transmitted to humans through contact with. This disease is transmitted to human beings with through contact with infected birds feces. With infected birds feces, nasal secretion or secretion from mouth and eyes. And infection from and secretion from eyes and mouth. All right, now we have to see why does the name contains H and N. ये H और N क्यों है? Okay? Well, influenza A viruses, influenza A viruses are classified into their subtypes. These influenza A viruses are they are basically classified into their subtypes on the basis of their presence on surface proteins. Depends upon which surface protein they are present over. On that basis, these influenza A viruses are classified. Now this H and N are those surface proteins. H means hemagglutinin. H means hemagglutinin, and N means neuraminidase. Neuraminidase, HANNA. H means hemagglutinin, and N neuraminidase. All right. So this is why there is a presence of these two letters H and N. So what are the symptoms that we can observe in a person who is suffering from this bird flu or the avian influenza or H5N1? What is the basic difference? Or what are the basic symptoms? Alright, you have to understand the symptoms of such diseases, because in UPSC the commission will give you 7 to 8 alternatives and ask you to pick the correct symptoms for the particular disease. So you have to identify, or you have to read this carefully and keep it in mind that this this part gets infected, and if this part gets infected, what are the symptoms that the person can have? Supposedly in COVID-19, it is the fibrosis of lungs. Basically, it is the pneumonia that is taking place. Sometimes it's mild, at times it's moderate, or at times it is severe. But when it's pneumonia, what is the basic thing that a person will feel? It's a shortage of breath, breathing problems, respiratory disorder. This is something that a person will experience. Okay? So there are diseases, there are instances when the there are organs in the body which actually have altogether a different symptom or different working when they are infected by something. All right. So how H5N1 affects humans, right? How H5N1 affects humans. The symptoms of H5N1 infection in humans . The symptom of H5N1 infection in humans include the symptoms of H5N1 infection in humans include mild upper respiratory tract infection, mild upper respiratory tract infection, mild upper respiratory tract infection, comma, early sputum production, early sputum production and rapid progression to severe pneumonia and rapid progression to severe pneumonia. It can lead to sepsis with shock. It can lead to sepsis with shock. It can lead to sepsis with shock, comma, acute respiratory distress syndrome, acute respiratory distress syndrome, and even death, Prevention. Right about the preventions. Strict biosecurity measures and good hygiene. Strict biosecurity measures and good hygiene are essential in protecting against disease outbreaks. Are essential in protecting against disease outbreaks. Okay. So this is what we had about Epidemics Act, avian influenza, COVID-19. Now we will see something about GSAT. What is GSAT? What is ExoMars? These are very small topics. Okay. So while you read or while you revise this thing, take note of this, that you have to understand what is H5N1, what is H9N2, H5N1, H9N2, and what are the different names of these diseases. What are the different names given to these influenzas? All right. Because UPSC has also this tendency to confuse the students by using different names. All right. So now the next topic that we'll be saying is ExoMars first, then we'll go for GSAT. It is the ExoMars. 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 So first of all, in such questions, this is a mission, Mars based mission. This can be understood that this satellite mission is related to Mars. What on Mars, whether is it related to the existence of life on Mars, whether it is related to the existence of water on the surface of Mars, whether it is related to understand and study the atmosphere of the Mars, or whether it is related to the rotational and the revolution of Mars in the solar system. Now we have to understand that. After that, the another question that we have to answer is, which space organization is conducting this mission, whether this is the Space Agency of US, NASA, or whether it is European Space Agency, or if it is Russian Space Agency, is it ISRO, or is it the Space Agency of China or Japan? We have to see this also. Also, the next thing that we have to see is what is the constituents of this mission, whether this is a rover mission, whether this will have a soft landing on the moon or the hard landing on the moon. This we will see here. Well, this is a joint mission. This basically is a joint mission between European Space Agency, ESA, European Space Agency, and the Russian Space Agency, and the Russian Space Agency, Roscosmos. Roscosmos. Remember this. The space agency of Russia is Roscosmos. All right. So, what is the objective of the ExoMars program? Now we have to see what basically is the objective of the ExoMars program. So this program is targeted to address the question of whether the life ever existed, on the Mars or not, whether the life ever existed on the Mars or not. Okay. So this is the objective of the mission. Now, what are the stages in which the mission will be accomplished? What are the phases in which the mission will be accomplished? So, the number of phases in which the mission will be accomplished is two. First time it was launched in the year 2016. A trace gas orbiter was launched in the atmosphere of the Mars to observe and to understand the atmospheric conditions of the Mars and see if there is any trace of atmospheric gases which can actually help the presence of biological and geological process on the surface of Mars. So this was the trace gas orbiter. TGO was the first stage in this mission ExoMars, and the second actually is the introduction or the induction or the landing of the rover on the platform or on the surface of the Mars. So this rover will be landed or will be sent in the year of 2022. Now this rover, the rover in the second stage and this trace gas orbiter in the first stage, these both will come together and work on the project of identifying the presence of any life on Mars. Okay, so this is about ExoMars. So when we read about such Mars missions, we also have to actually go through the other Mars missions which are actually planned or which are actually under the process. What are the other Mars missions? What are the other Mars missions which are already in place or which are scheduled for the launch in the recent time? Well, the future Mars mission, amongst the future Mars mission is NASA's Perseverance rover. NASA's Perseverance rover, which is scheduled for 2020. This is NASA's. Second is a Chinese Mars rover. This is a Chinese Mars rover which is scheduled for this year, which was actually scheduled for this year. I don't know after this outbreak and the global situation whether China will be in the condition to launch it or not, but it was scheduled for this year. Next that we have is HOPE Mars mission. HOPE Mars mission, which is the project of UAE and is again planned to be launched later this year. Okay. Then there are previous Mars missions also. So we have to, there is a Mars mission of India which is Mangalyaan. There was a movie on Mangalyaan, I guess, by Akshay Kumar. Okay. So there is the Indian Mars mission Mangalyaan also. So now we have to see what is the basic difference between the rover mission or the Mangalyaan or the ExoMars or InSights. ये आपको पढ़ना है खुद ही. These are the basic things. These are not current. These are contemporary things. You have to understand what is the basic difference between them and what are the objectives of all of these missions. Also, you have to understand what is the composition of atmosphere on Earth and composition of atmosphere on Mars. Okay. Also, like nothing. That's not important. Okay. Okay, next topic is GSAT. Next topic is GSAT. What is GSAT? What is GSAT? Simple है. This is geo. This is imaging. This means Earth. Okay, so this GSAT is a Earth observation satellite. It will take images. With that, the study will be done. So that's why it is called Earth observation satellites. And India has basically planned 2 Earth observation satellites, and it is first one of the 2 planned satellites. All right. Is it a geosynchronous or a geostationary satellite? Geosynchronous or a geostationary satellite? Is it a geosynchronous or a geostationary satellite? Any idea? It is basically a geostationary satellite fixed at 36,000 feet, 36,000 kilometers, and it will be stationary, means it will be fixed at a position, and from there this will keep observing the surface of the earth. All right, this actually have very high resolution cameras which will help monitor the changes in borders and overall geographical conditions of the earth. So right, GSAT-1 GSAT-1 is a new Earth observation satellite. GSAT-1 is a new Earth observation satellite. Is a new Earth observation satellite. Is a new Earth observation satellite which was set to be launched. In the month of March. It will be the first of 2 planned satellites. It will be the first of 2 planned satellites first one of 2 planned Indian Earth observation spacecraft. Indian Earth observation spacecraft placed in a geostationary orbit of around 36,000 kilometers. Placed in a geostationary orbit of around 36,000 kilometers. Next, it will apparently be in a fixed spot. It will apparently be in a fixed spot looking over the Indian continent at all times. Next, right? Earth observation satellites of ISRO has been successfully able to establish many operational applications in the country. Many operational applications in the country, both at central and state level. Both at central and state level. Both at central and state level. there are large number of users, there are large numbers of number of users who utilize space-based inputs, who utilize space-based inputs for various purposes, for various purposes. Some of the important missions of ISRO, some of the important missions of ISRO in terms of Indian remote sensing series of satellites, in terms of Indian remote sensing series of satellite that has enabled unique application of space, that has enabled unique applications. Okay, I'll repeat, let me first complete, thereafter I'll repeat. Unique application of space-based imaging are Cartosat 1 and 2, Cartosat 1 and 2, ResourceSat 1 and 2, Cartosat 1 and 2, ResourceSat 1 and 2, OceanSat 1 and 2, ReSat 1, Megatropics, Saral, ScatSat, InSat series, and host of other satellites. GSAT, I will start from Earth observation. I will start from Earth observation as asked by the student. So, a new Earth observation satellite, GSAT 1, a new Earth observation satellite in the month of March. In the month of March. Next, it will be the first of two planned. It will be the first of two planned Earth or observation spacecraft, Earth observation spacecraft to be observed, to be placed in a geostationary orbit, to be placed in a geostationary orbit of around 36,000 kilometers, of around 36,000 kilometers. Next point, it will apparently be in a fixed spot looking over the Indian continent. It will be apparently in a fixed spot looking over the Indian subcontinent at all the times. Indian subcontinent at all the times. Next, it will have high resolution cameras. It will have high resolution cameras which will help to monitor any changes in borders. It will have high resolution cameras, help to check any change in border, any change in border and the overall geographical condition of the country, and the overall geographical condition of the country. So this is about GSET. Okay. Now we have a very important topic, very important topic, the rare disease. Rare disease. Rare disease day. A rare disease day was celebrated on or was observed on February 29. So now we have to know what is rare disease, how it is defined by WHO. Is there any scheme or any program in India existing for the patients who are suffering from these rare diseases, and what are the concerns and issues related to the rare diseases. So what is rare disease? This rare disease, this rare disease, anyone from the chat room, if you know, please answer, is also known as orphan disease. Orphan disease. Does this mean that this disease is something wherein the orphans are basically infected? Wherein basically it is the orphans who are affected under the disease. Is it so? So what is rare disease? Well, rare diseases are the diseases which are so rare in this world that the institutions and the scientists hardly invest any money or time or physical labor to research on them or to improve the efficiency of the medicines which are used for their treatment. These are so rare. These are so rare means the occurrences of these diseases is so rare. There might be 1 person in 10 lakh who might suffer from this rare disease. And one of the very important characteristic of this rare disease is that most of the times, and almost 99% of the times, these diseases are there in the individual since his birth. When I say the disease is present in the individual since his birth, that means the person may be inheriting the disease, from his or her biological parents. So what are the examples, if you know, what are the examples of some of the rare diseases? What are the examples of some of the rare diseases? Hemophilia, thalassemia, then we have thalassemia, then we have sickle cell anemia, then we have sickle cell anemia, then what else? There are autoimmune diseases. There are autoimmune diseases in children. Then we have Gaucher's disease, if you have heard of Gaucher's disease. So there are several rare diseases in the world, but the problem is this disease does not impact several people. It affects only few people, and occurrences is very, very rare. So because of this rarity, there is no one who will take care of these diseases. So it is called orphan's disease. So hence it is called as orphan's disease. Just a minute. All right. So what are the challenges or towards the police? What are the challenges towards the person who are affected by the rare disease or towards the community? Because at the end of the day, individuals belong to a community, families belong to a community. So if there are no improvement, if there is no improvement in the testing or in the treatment, line of treatment of these diseases, then it would be impacting the community somehow. So first of all, we have to understand what are the concerns and challenges related to these diseases. Well, so but I think thalassemia is not a rare disease. Treatment is there in every hospital for this. See, when I say it's a rare disease, doesn't mean it does not have a treatment. It means there is no enough research or no enough studies going on in such diseases, to improve the condition or to improve the results of the people or to improve the outcome of the medicines on these people. Thalassemia is a rare disease because, not because it does not have treatment in all the hospitals. It is a rare disease because it impacts very few people. That's the definition of rare disease. It affects a very small percentage of population. That's why they are called rare disease, not because they don't have any treatment. They have a treatment, but the percentage of population which is impacted by this disease is so small that it is impossible or very hard for the companies or for the organizations who are investing into the research regarding the treatment and regarding the cure, that it becomes impossible for them to recover it from the patients. That's why it is called orphan, because no one is there to take care of it. एक बार कर दिया तो कर दिया. That doesn't mean that thalassemia does not have a care. It does have a care or treatment, line of treatment. But is it rare? Yes, because a very small percentage of population is impacted by thalassemia. This is what I was trying to say. So, what are the challenges? See, as their first one is, as the percentage of population is very rare, and as the population might be scattered very much, like someone might be living in Latin America, another one might be there in Australia, someone might be in Jammu and Kashmir, and the other one might be somewhere in the interiors of Arunachal Pradesh. So as the percentage of population is very less, chances are there that there will be difficulty in collecting the epidemiological data. Epidemiological data means the data related to the disease. how frequency, what is the temperature, what range, okay, how frequently the fever comes and goes. These are the epidemiological data related to the disease. Now, when there is a difficulty in reaching or in collecting the epidemiological data, then it becomes impossible or very tough for the physicians to diagnose and adopt a correct line of treatment. Also calculating cost and estimation on research and development, R&D, also gets hampered or impeded. All right. So if we see a report which was tabled in WHO in 2017, it mentioned that over 50% of the new cases of these rare diseases are found in children, because, as I have already said, most of these diseases are genetical or are transferred from one parents to their son, or for that reason from parents to their kids. So as they are transferable or inherited diseases, that's why around 50% of the cases are in children. Not 100%, because there are diseases which actually crop up or come out or take shape later in the life. So that's why they are not 100%. Okay, so write about this. After this, we will write. We'll write about definition. We'll write about the concerns and challenges. After that, we'll write about what are the efforts that the Indian government has taken about with regards to the rare diseases. First of all, we'll write this and then we will go there. Okay, all right. A rare disease also referred to as orphan disease, also referred to as orphan's disease, also referred to as orphan's disease, also referred to as orphan's disease, is any disease that affects a small percentage of the population, that affects a small percentage of the population, Next line, most of the rare diseases are genetic. Most of the rare diseases are genetic and are present throughout a person's entire life, and are present throughout a person's entire life, comma, even if symptoms do not immediately appear. Even if symptoms do not appear immediately. Next line. The most common rare diseases are recorded in India. The most common rare diseases recorded in India are, the most common rare diseases recorded in India are hemophilia, the most common rare diseases recorded in India are hemophilia, thalassemia, hemophilia, thalassemia, sickle cell anemia, and primary immunodeficiency in children, autoimmune diseases, lysosome storage disorders like Pompe disease, lysosome storage disorder like Pompe disease, Gaucher's disease, Pompe's disease, Gaucher's disease, cystic fibrosis, and certain forms of muscular dystrophies, certain form of muscular dystrophies. Now write definition. What is the proper, we'll write a proper definition if it is there. While there is no universally accepted definition, of rare diseases, countries typically arrive at their own descriptions, taking into consideration disease prevalence, its severity and the existence of alternative therapeutic action, its severity, and the existence of alternative therapeutic options. In the US, for instance, a rare disease is defined as a condition that affects fewer than a rare disease is defined as a condition that affects people or that affects fewer than 2 lakh people. 2 lakh people. The same definition is used by National Organization for Rare Disorders. The same definition is used by National Organization for Rare Disorders. Now write the next subbit, concerns and challenges. Concerns and challenges. First one, they pose a significant challenge to the healthcare system. Because of the difficulty in collecting epidemiological data, which in turn impedes the process of arriving at a disease burden, calculating cost estimations and making correct and timely diagnosis among other problems. Second, many cases of rare diseases may be serious. Chronic and life-threatening. Full stop. In some cases, the affected individuals, mainly children, may also suffer from some form of a handicap or some form of a disability may also suffer from some form of disability. Next line, next point, as per the 2017 report, as per the 2017 report, as per the 2017 report, over 50% of new cases are reported. Over 50% of new cases are reported in children, and these diseases are responsible for 35% of deaths in those, and these diseases are responsible for 35% of deaths in those below the age of 1, in those below the age of 1, 10% of the death between the ages of 1 and 5, and 10% of deaths between the age of 1 and 5, and 12% between the age of 5 and 15, and 12% between the age of 5 and 15. Now we'll see what are the efforts that are taken by India, to fight or to provide, make life better for the people who are suffering from rare disorder. Okay, so in the January this year, in the January 2020, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare published a national policy for the treatment of 450 rare diseases. Published a national policy for the treatment of 450 rare diseases. Now write the overview of the policy. The policy intends to kick-start a registry of rare diseases. The policy intends to kick-start a registry of rare diseases. A policy intends to kick-start a registry of rare diseases, which will be maintained by Indian Council of Medical Research, ICMR, Next, under the policy, there are 3 categories of rare diseases. Under the 3 categories of rare, there are three categories of rare diseases. First one, where the one time curative treatment is required, where just a one time curative treatment is required. Second, diseases that require long-term treatment but the cost is low. The diseases that require long-term treatment but the cost is low. Also, last one, diseases which require long-term treatment, diseases which require long-term treatment but the cost is very high. But the cost is very high. Third point, financial assistance. As per the policy, the assistance of rupees 15 lakh will be, provided to patients suffering from rare diseases, that require a one-time curative petition. That requires a one-time curative petition under the Rashtriya Arogya Nidhi scheme. Under the Rashtriya Arogya Nidhi scheme, full stop. The treatment will also be limited to beneficiaries of Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana. Pradhan Mantri, those who have availed this facility of Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana will only be qualified enough, or will only be the people who will getting the beneficial benefits under this policy of national national policy for treatment of 450 rare diseases. Now we have completed the topics related to science and tech. All right, the next topic, that next chapter or next subject or next current affairs we'll see will be related to geography and environment. It will be related to geography and environment. So now the first news is regarding the black soot or the black carbon recently a research study took place which found that the presence of black carbon or the black soot in the Himalayas has increased incredibly in last few years. Has increased incredibly in the last few years, and specifically if we see the region around Gangotri, or we see the region ice-capped mountains from where the glaciers basically emerge out of. To be more specifically, the research actually found that the Gangotri region, in the Gangotri region, there has been a sudden spike of 400 times. There has been a sudden spike of 400 times more presence of black carbons in that particular region, which is because of the forest fires and stubble burning for agricultural purposes. What are the major reasons behind it? Forest fire and stubble burning. Stubble burning for agricultural purposes. Agricultural purposes. All right. So what is the harmful impact of black carbon? Or is it better than the carbon dioxide present in the air? Or is it more harmful than that? This we have to see. All right. Also, the study found that the concentration was minimum in the month of August. It was minimum in the month of August, which coincidentally happens to be the rainy season in India, and is maximum during the May, when the dry season, a complete dry season, the complete winter season of India has ended and it has entered into the summer zone. So hope you are trying to understand what I am trying to say here. Rainy season में क्या था? Black soot का level, black carbon का level, it was minimum. Okay, but as the winters ended and as the summers started, the presence or the percentage of black soot in the environment on the surface was maximum. ठीक है? तो इसका मतलब क्या हुआ? What does this mean? This eventually means that the river used to, or the rains used to wash away the black carbon, and the dry season used to keep them stay at the surface or in the atmosphere. That's it, simple. So now what is black carbon and what are the concerns related to it? What is black carbon or the concern related to it? It basically, see, everything is made up of carbon, right? Everything is made up of carbon, be it human being, be it firewood, be it cow dung, be it grasses. So when we burn this firewood or gases or human being or any other substance, as it is made up of carbon, we see a black smoke comes out. All right. What is this black smoke? What is this black smoke? Well, this black smoke is because of the incomplete combustion of the, it is because of the incomplete combustion of the fossil fuels and the biomass. Had the combustion been 100%, had the combustion been 100%, we would not have seen that black smoke coming out from there. So that black smoke is actually consisting of black carbons or the black soot. We call it soot also. So that is known as black carbon or black soot. And this black carbon and black soot is very, very, very harmful than the carbon dioxide also. Than the carbon dioxide also. It can absorb more light. It can absorb, suppose this is a sun and we have our earth here. This is the atmosphere. So the sun rays coming from this region, and there are a lot of black suits here. So these black suits existing in this place or in the atmosphere of the earth will actually absorb more light. They will absorb more light. Okay. So now when they have absorbed more light and the amount of light which actually successfully falls on the surface of the earth, we also know that the earth gets heated more by the not by the rays falling over it, because these are short wave radiations. The long wave radiation which actually go back and which are trapped in the atmosphere makes the atmosphere of earth heated. So these radiations which are going back, reflected back from the earth, are now captured more by this black soot, which eventually actually helps in the global warming, and due to which we can see the melting of glaciers taking place in the mountain caps or the snow capped regions. The Gangotri glacier has in fact went back several meters, or it is said that it has gone back by 1 kilometer. Yes, incomplete combustion of fossil fuels or the biomass. So this is the impact of black soot. Also, it is said that it absorbs around 400 times more heat than the carbon dioxide. More heat and light. Also, one of the advantage of how it is better than carbon dioxide, if we are asked the question that how it is better than carbon dioxide, then the only thing we can say it does not stays in the atmosphere for long. Carbon dioxide stays there for years and years to come, but black soot doesn't stay in the environment for long. So just it stays there for a few days or weeks. After that, if the rain comes or the wind comes, it moves and it falls down. All right. So this is the black soot for you. Now write. First we will write what were the findings of the research. Right. Carbon concentration near the Gangotri glacier. Carbon concentration near the Gangotri glacier rose 400 times in summer. Rose 400 times in summer due to forest fires and stubble burning. Due to forest fires and stubble burning. Due to forest fires and stubble burning, from agricultural waste. Next, the monthly mean concentration of EBC that is equivalent black carbon, the monthly mean combustion of EBC, that is equivalent black carbon, was found to be minimum in August, and maximum in the month of May, Full stop. The observed seasonal mean concentration, observed seasonal mean concentrations of EBC indicated a pristine glacial source and an absence of EBC sources in the locality, Now write what is black carbon and what are the concerns. What is black carbon and what are the concerns? Black carbon results from incomplete combustion of fossil fuels. Black carbon results from the incomplete combustion of the fossil fuels and the biomass. It results from incomplete combustion of the fossil fuels and the biomass. Next, it is produced both naturally and by human activities as a result of the incomplete combustion of fossil fuels, biomass, and biofuels. Primary sources include emissions from diesel engines, cooking stoves, wood burning, and forest fires. Next, concerns associated. What are the concerns associated with black carbon levels? What are the concerns associated with black carbon levels? First one, they absorb light and about 1,000,000 times more energy than the carbon dioxide. They absorb light and more than 1,000,000 times and about 1,000,000 times more energy than carbon dioxide. Next, it is said to be the second largest contributor to the climate change. It is said to be the second largest contributor to the climate change after CO2. After CO2, full stop. But unlike CO2, which can stay in the environment for years together, the black carbon is short-lived. And remains in the environment for few days or weeks. Before it descends as rain or snow. Third, black carbon absorbs solar energy. And warms the atmosphere. Full stop. When it falls to the earth with precipitation, it darkens the surface of snow and ice. It darkens the surface of snow and ice, resulting in reducing their albedo, warming the snow. As the return of albedo is less, it absorbs more heat, that is, the snow gets more warm, that is, warming of the snow, and hastening melting, that leads to the melting of the snow. Next point, India is the second largest emitter of the black carbon in the world. India is the second largest emitter of the black carbon in the world, with emissions expected to increase dramatically in the coming decades, with the emissions expected to increase dramatically in the coming decades. With the Indo-Gangetic plains said to be the largest contributor. Now write some fact for the prelims. facts for the prelims. First, complete combustion would turn all carbon in the fuel into complete combustion would turn all the carbon in the fuel into carbon dioxide but combustion is never complete. But the combustion is never complete. But the combustion is never complete and carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, volatile organic compounds and organic carbon and black carbon, organic carbon and black carbon particles are all formed in the process, and black carbon particles are all formed in the process. Full stop. The complex mixture of particular matter, resulting from incomplete combustion, the complex mixture of particular matter resulting from incomplete combustion is referred to as soot. So now we have completed the black carbon. So with the eye on prelims, we have to understand and also study what are the different components or what are the different byproducts which are produced on the combustion of fossil fuels, like SO2, NO2, sulfur dioxide, nitrous oxide. So you have to know all the components of this components which are produced when the combustion of fossil fuel takes place. Also, you have to understand and study what are the different factors or what are the different actually contributors to the climate change. Is it just the black soot or the carbon dioxide, or are there any other components which are again impacting the environment or the climate? Okay, so this we have to see along with what we have seen. So you have to make a 360-degree coverage of all the topics that you are studying, so that कोई एंगल ऐसा ना बचे जिससे कि यूपीएससी क्वेश्चन पूछ सके और आप उस क्वेश्चन का जवाब ना दे सको. तो यू हैव टू कवर द टॉपिक वेरी होलिस्टिकली. ऑलराइट, सो दिस इज ऑल we will be studying today. Next we will see in the different lecture that we will have. Okay, okay, bye students.